Welcome to, another episode of BP and Chill. Well, not really, but like Monday morning chill. But we
Oh,
started this with BP and Chill. One of our first, I think our first ever guest for BP and Chill might have actually been.
I mean, I'd put money on it. I don't remember, but like we know a fair number of BPs, but like EOS USA is like practically a sibling at this point.
Right.
And then I just kept showing up for other people's too.
It's
So
true.
Yeah, that's
Which
true.
is always good.
Yeah. So how are you, Michael? Welcome back. It seems like ages, really.
well, it's crypto. So I mean, a month is like a year, So
That's true. Very, very
hanging
true.
in there, staying busy, like I say, building servers, breaking servers, fixing servers.
Yeah. So I was doing the rounds the other day in Telegram, and I came across the new, I don't know, cover image for your for EOS USA channel, and I was like, man, that's sweet. Why don't you shout out what's going on there? Because that was a pretty. If you haven't been there, check out the descriptor below. Go over to the Telegram for EOS
Yeah,
USA,
absolutely.
and it's an amazing piece of artwork, really.
It really is, especially when you see it in person. But so we do a lot of work with a lot of projects all around the space. Basically, you need help, we're here to help, right? So one of the projects we've worked with for God, it seems like forever, right, in the space is Graffiti Kings, which has a couple different collections and some really cool artwork, and trying to kind of get things up and going. We help them kind of get their token contract going and some other features that we're looking at. So anyway, so in chatting this, that, and the other, I always try to hit up my projects. EOS USA, myself personally, try to collect like physical art to go along with NFTs, and so I just kind of hit him up and was like, "Hey, what would it take to get an EOS USA painting?" And he was like, "Well, So we went back and forth, and he ended up, shipping over the pond this 4 by 4 foot beautiful piece of artwork that's the EOS USA logo and it's like a graffiti wall. So if you really get down into the nitty gritty details of it, he even did some things with like a ballpoint pen. So it's as
Wow.
grand as spray paint. Smells like Krylon. I mean, it definitely was tagged, but they put a lot of detail and depth into it. So it's really really cool. I can't deny that I'm a little biased and partial to it, but possibly one of the best pieces of art I've ever seen.
It is pretty darn good. Yeah, we'll start in a minute. I just pulled the gimbal so you could do some gratitudes.
It's also the cover image, and really the only reason I wanted to have you on here to show it off. So, all right, see you guys tomorrow.
All right,
Fair
and
enough, right?
scene.
Problem, best thing of the stream.
Right? Yeah. Michael, you want to go first?
Uh, I I am. I feel like this is always my gratitude. That I mean, I'm just glad to be here in this space. I don't even know how to word that. That
I'm gonna
it,
say it
it it's
verbatim
it's
because
an it's an opportunity to it's like the internet of 1990s, as I always say. I mean, there's some really cool ideas going on. There's a lot of cool people,
Yep.
and just awesome to be here.
I agree. Jimmy, how about you?
Mm, I don't know. I wasn't really thinking about it. I'm grateful for. Let's see. What am I grateful for? I'm grateful for EOSIO today. I mean, we're on Wax. We do our metaverse right now on Wax. I mean, there's things kicking off in EOS, which is pretty cool. I'm actually going to be hosting Eve LaRose and maybe Zach Gall, I think, over on the Jenner EOS channel tomorrow. Well, tonight for you guys around 8 p.m. So if you're around, come check that out. And if you have any questions, pop in there. But there's some, really interesting things happening. I know Michael's working on a lot of things with the blue papers and things as well. And, we are at Jenner EOS 2, and there's some interesting adaptations coming out with wallets, SDKs, you name it. There was a great little video by Jester over at Grey Mass. There's some awesome stuff that's happening just all over the space. So I'm grateful for ESIO today.
Cool beans.
I'm curious, which one of y'all's alarms going off to take your geriatric medicine? Do y'all hear that in the background?
That's definitely not me.
It's not me either. Is it you?
Maybe.
Is your shit on fire again?
I was say, yeah, let's say, is that the fire alarm going off? Hold on, let me reset it real quick.
That's awesome. Is your phone near your mic, Jimmy?
It's not moving though, but it is, yeah. But it's not on.
I just hear.
Is that better?
I don't know.
I mean,
It sounds like one of those Casio watches going off.
Right?
Anyway, whatever. They'll just blame it on EOS. It's probably one of my servers.
I can't hear it, but maybe it is me.
I'm cool with it.
All right, cool beans. I mean, there you go.
So yeah, there's some really cool stuff going on in the EOSIO space. I mean, Mendel code and all of that. Yeah, we meet every week with a lot of the crew you mentioned and some of the developers and group from around the space. So really excited to kind of see how I don't know, I kind of call it riding of the ship. EOS has kind of been in la la land for a little while and treading water, but which is, that's the code that a lot of chains that we run and interface with use. So ultimately, it's kind of, caused a stagnation across the space a little bit. So it's always good to see, I mean, even just the circling of all the different wagons, of all the different EOSIO chains, there's a representative from most of them that kind of at least all got involved. And then there's all the white papers as they kind of refer to it, but they're kind of like working groups, to really kind of identify all the different areas that may need focus, and then what that focus needs to be, who would need to do it, how to fund it, things like that.
So yeah, what are you most excited about in the whole EOS space or EOSIO space at the moment? I mean, I think I ask you that every time, and I'm always surprised by your answer. But yeah.
I mean, I would, if I had to pick one immediately, some of EOS USA has been known to trigger bugs in unique ways that over the years we've worked on identifying and getting some fixes and things like that had kind of gone into this quagmire of different code bases and different versions and all of that. So I mean, I'm kind of excited to kind of have a lot of all these features, bug fixes, which I'm partial to, features which make running nodes easier. The infrastructure side of it, it's doable, but obviously we can always do better, right? So
yeah, well, that's like, I wonder if that's one of the key features that can be a selling point for, I mean, EOS hopefully, but I mean other EOSIO chains. Just that the sort of anti-fragile, like you kind of, it's been battle tested to a pretty high degree.
It's definitely, moving to another generation. I mean, originally we all launched way back when in 2018, learned a lot of lessons there. And then of course, EOS was the first one that really stress tested. Well, second, us over on Jungle used to beat the crap out of that network, still do. But second was EOS. It got kind of ripped on by the CPU miners and token transfers and stressed and exposed uniquenesses in different models and stuff like that, and different people have responded to it differently. I mean,
right.
EOS adjusted to a fee-based model. I mean, some chains have just limited the ability for free resources to get exploited, things like that. So yeah, EOS and Wax, and I mean even Proton and Telos, FIO, Ultra, a lot of the chains, even some other smaller ones that are out there.
Yeah, I think for me it's always tough because we've been here from the beginning and we're looking at the tech and it looks really good, but at the same time, a little bit of bullish sentiment recently, on the social media, but we're still not really free and clear with all of the FUD that came from the other chains and stuff like that. So I'm kind of like, Wax doesn't seem to really get associated with EOSIO very much anymore, and FIO I think maybe not at all. You know, Telus has come out of the gates pretty strong. So I think it's just the mainnet that really needs to be fixed. But that working group kind of
fixes the relative term. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with the group that maybe the original, I don't want to call them investors, but believers, so to say, is that, you know, I mean, so you rattle off all those projects. Wax did their ICO, you know, ERC 20 type of thing way back when, but took that money, and you may not have enjoyed what they did with it personally, but they did, you know, they moved, they shake, they revolutionized the industry, we'll say, you know, I mean, Wax Wallet and Atomic and all of that, you know, really kind of took it to the next level that early believers would at least look and be like, all right, you know, we made some progress. FIO, you know, they had an original investment, but, you know, there's some cool features over on FIO. Telos didn't do an ICO or any type of an initial, you know, so they don't have a multi-billion-dollar burden, you know, that people are like, what's going on, you know? So, I mean, I think that's why EOS and Block One and I mean, I understand it. Obviously, I've been here for 4 years since launch. You know, I mean, we've come a long way. It's not nearly as simple as it maybe sounds, but just to give an example of, like you say, well, these other ones haven't seemed to take that same black eye. None of them raised $4 billion. None of them kind of had this Block One, you know, focus difference, maybe. Anyway, so I mean, it is what it is, but it hung in there. That was the main thing, in my opinion, is, I mean, tread water, call it whatever you want, that we still have a chance. You know what I mean? We've still got a decent, you know, interest. You know, there's a lot of exchanges that still have it listed, so it's not like it fell off the radar, but just needs some innovation and direction. So that's why I'm thrilled that, you know, Eves and Zach and Jesta and CC and a lot of the old Block One crew or wherever, it's all kind of it's like you got this, you know, crew of all these masterminds, and they've kind of, well, this one's over here now, this one's over here, this one's over here, but we all get together on like a Wednesday morning call and chit chat and you know, the latest upgrade to EOS, you know, is really kind of.
Well, I read a really interesting one today where they were talking about the amount of talent that's actually leaving Block One and coming back to EOS, right? And there seems like there's quite a bit, which is really interesting. I'm not really sure where they're headed or what they're going to end up doing. I know that we did lose like some really good talent back in the day. The EOS New York guys, they kind of left and didn't really, you know, come back in. But yeah, I'm kind of excited. Like, it seems like
I don't think they all particularly left. I mean, you know, we all kind of are blockchain butterflies when it comes down to it. I know Kevin was still around at Block One and even other projects. I've you know, I mean, he has a smart noodle on his head, so you know, a lot of people trying to utilize those resources that are becoming available. That's why I say it's not so much, you know, that they're going anywhere. It's almost just kind of a, you know, reorganization type of thing. Oh,
yeah.
God.
Thanks, Jimmy. I was wondering Hobson, Gary's sister.
So well, speaking of this too, also, if you're not following Anders Bjrk, go follow him on Twitter. He's doing something really interesting with Wax history nodes, I think, where he's tracking transactions that you can pull for your taxes.
Well, I've talked to him about it, so I was like, oh, so I send him over to the Swedes, right? So I'll get to why it's history so hard in a second, but Sweden is one of the premier infrastructure providers across all the chains, not even EOSIO when it comes down to it, but super great crew and massive. They made my servers look to shame, right? They make fun of my piddly servers. But they have all of this history data. And when I say all this history data, terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of data. And as people are realizing, it's hard, even if you go to blocks, you know, if it can get all the transactions, to deal with them. And so, you know, as all of us have kind of realized, you know, that some of these services are needed to help bridge the gap for some of the non-super techies. And so he's been working with some projects to basically like tap directly into the back end data. Of course, we understand the data as well as anybody. So he's been helping. I saw he was running some script to pull data out, and it was millions and millions of transactions, just like alien world transactions and things like that they're just microtransactions. So
Yeah.
really, really tough to get them out and get them even readable, which that's a relative term. But yeah, so Anders has, and there's some other guilds that are doing it as well. We've done a little bit of it, but it's it's tedious, and everything's unique, so it gets a little tough whenever. If you just want alien worlds, that's cool. If you just want token transfers, that's cool. Oh, you need to track when you bought a pack and how much you bought it on Nifty for and what the current value was, and then splitting it out into the cards that you got. I mean, you can really get into some crazy tax accounting as much as anything versus just raw data. But anyway, so yeah, that's really a cool thing that Anders is doing it. We've done some to help some folks out. Like a lot of the stuff we do for projects are like market sales for like the projects themselves. So not personal tax data, but going back and pulling a bunch of market sale history to be able to distribute artist royalties and things like that, right? It's hard to get data. So if you want to talk about wax history nodes, I'd love to. I've got a smoldering one as it is right now. Luckily the backups are in place and everything's filled over. But
so first of all, explain to people who might not know, is there a difference between the difficulty in keeping wax history nodes up to date? Is this a wax problem or is this an EOSIO problem?
That's a perfect transition. This is how I tend to try to describe it. Is blockchain is great for verifying data right now. So they call that state. And so it's like, how many tokens does Corey have? 5. How many tokens does Jimmy have? 10.
He has 5. I have 4.
There you go. Right. Well, how about that? How many tokens does Michael have? 20. Okay. Well, Michael's going to send 5 to Corey and 10 to Jimmy because he's the poor man. So, and it processes what we have right now. But as you've noticed, there's a big difference between, okay, what's my current balance and what were my last 10 transactions, right? So blockchain is very good at validating what you have right now is what we say it is. And it's very good at saying you can get your way to this data, but it's not easy to provide the monstrosity of data that actually leads you up to it. The way I describe it is like the old school green bar accounting books, right? We're used to like a checkbook. You write down all your transactions. When you get to the bottom of the page, you tally up your beginning balance, you flip the page, and you don't really ever go back to the page before it to trust the balance that you have. That's kind of the idea behind blockchain, is it's there if you want to go back and look at it, but really you're focusing on the current state of things. But if you want to say, well, how the hell did Jimmy get these 14 tokens? You would flip back a page or let's say the other way, you go to the beginning of the book, you'd start flipping through and be like, oh, Jimmy got 1 token. Jimmy got 2 tokens. Jimmy got 3 tokens. Jimmy got 10 tokens. And you would go back through each page and show, here's how you got there. But as you can imagine, that's a hell of a lot of work, especially the more pages you start to put into that book. It's like the blocks that I got to go back to block 1. Did you do anything? Nope. Block 2. Did you do anything? Nope. Block 3. Did you do anything? Yep. Okay, cool. What a history node does, or even just a history service for all the different blockchains in general, is it kind of gets the data out of the blockchain page by page by page style of data structure and more puts it into like a regular database that like a website or a program or something can use, that you could say, show me Corey's last 10 transactions. And it'd be like, all right, let me query my table. Here's the last 10 transactions. You don't need to go page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5. There's a set of servers that basically listens to the chain and real time keeps itself in sync and has this database of the data that it can then very easily respond. What were Corey's last 10 transactions? So the blockchain's great at validating current data, but you need some of these layer 2 services to make the data more usable. Does that make sense? That I promise you it's valid, but if you need a website or a wallet, those are the two main things that use it, to query and say the last 10 things you did are X, you need services that are reading these millions and millions and millions of transactions a day, pumping them into a database, storing them in a way that you can use millions and millions of records, and then being able to answer, okay, website, you asked for Corey's last 10 transactions, here they are. In Wax, it's currently about, it's probably almost 11 terabytes of data. And it's not Raspberry Pis that they run on. I mean, they can put these high-end i9s and NVMEs on tilt, right? I mean, they smash them as hard as they can.
For you tech people, for you non-tech people out there, an i9 is a potato with 9 eyes in it. Just
yeah, that's true. So, interesting tidbit. Yeah, a lot of our servers are gaming rigs. They're not what you would think of as enterprise servers like Xeons and these high-end data center type servers, because the enterprise servers are more designed to do a lot of work distributed very heavily, right? So like instead of having one engine that runs really fast, they have 64 engines that can handle 64 different heavy loads. It's really good at handling heavy loads, but it's not the greatest at handling fast. And ironically, in the world of blockchain, it's called hyperthreading. It doesn't really hyperthread. It really kind of latches on to one piece of the processor and hammers the snot out of it, you know? So the i9s, which are actually more gaming machines, they're more hot rodded. They don't have 64 different engines. They only handle up to so much memory. But when you compare how fast can this one engine do this and one piece of the enterprise engine do this, the i9s are actually a little faster and a little more powerful, and obviously a lot cheaper in the long run. You just build a server around a gaming machine is kind of what we do, but it helps us get the most bang for the buck out of the hardware. So, but yeah, if you look, the i9s are the Intel Lambo processors for like desktop PCs. Does that make sense?
I don't know. It did to me, but Nick's calling you out here. So,
okay, yeah, multi-threading versus hyper-threading. That's true. That's true. Touche, Nick.
I mean, so, over my head.
Right. Apparently, you just need to buy cooler data center parts, and then you win.
Right.
Yeah, maybe I should liquid cool. I should look into liquid cooling.
Or moving to a place where they only get sunlight for 5 days a year.
Yeah, I don't know if I could survive there. I'm like a reptile. I have to bask in the sun.
But since you're in the comments, Anders, get on here sometime and please explain what you're doing with the Taxlink, because I think it's super cool.
Yeah, and I probably need you.
He's using those big badass history server that I just talked about with those terabytes and terabytes of data. Tear through it and be like, here's the 15 million transactions you did every month.
I'd seriously like, is that a service yet? And can I buy it? Because I'm gonna end up needing it.
It's very expensive right now, but it'll be.
I was gonna say, I mean, anything. Yeah, I mean, I'll crank up some scripts and rip the snot out of Anders' nodes too if you pay me enough. I mean,
no, I think I think what he said was, right now it's a couple $100 or something, and a few $100, but the price should come down in real time. So, but enough about Anders.
Dude, I'll pay a few $100 per account to get that data, because it's fucking.
So, that's why I say worth every penny.
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah, I guess it really depends on the, different regions, different countries in the world have different regulations.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is, EOSIO /Wax is allowed us to take blockchain to the next level. That's what I was talking about last night. My parents showed me an article in the local newspaper that was talking about NFTs. And I was like, well, what did they talk about? And he said, well, they bought some art. And that told me, oh, you went to OpenSea and you bought some art and there's nothing you can do with it. I'm like, that's version 2 of blockchain. And that's why everybody goes, this is it? That you've paid $500,000 for a ETH rock?
Yeah.
No. Take those NFTs and be able to do things with them, be able to, play games and have all these transactions. Holy shit. Now you've got millions and millions of microtransactions and assets that you bought that then fractionalize, it's an accounting nightmare because you started to use the technology more. So like I say, if you just use blockchain to buy art, pretty easy for you. This is how much I spent and this is how much I lost. See what I did there? Whereas when you get on these, high throughput chains, we'll call them, the low transaction cost, you start to really use them. And then, oh shit, the IRS and whatever other entity feels that they need to know every single one of those transactions.
Yep.
All right, here you guys. What Andrew's not joke about is, we hand them reams and reams of papers. Is that all right? Here's your data.
Well, so I think it's interesting, right? Because Biden made a speech not so long ago for USians about. Waiting, Corey.
What's that?
USians, right? A speech about, because I'm fucking from Canada and I'm American too. God damn it.
Okay.
But he made a speech
Don't
about
let anybody tell you otherwise, man.
Right. He made a speech about CBDCs and central bank digital currencies and how this is gonna change the space. And I think it was Marshall Hayner from Proton came out and he was talking about how it's needed for the space, essentially, right? But the problem with this is that, there's a few problems with this, but the problem with this is Bitcoin's in its 15th year, 2008, I guess, to 2000, about
8, 9, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, about 15th year, and I would say that most governments, the majority of governments, are in year 1 of being able to understand it.
Right. Even that's generous.
Right. So how do it what's your take on the whole CBD system? Will it be good for the space? Will it get them up to speed, or it just won't matter anymore?
And I always go around with, I'll call them the elitists or anarchists. We're going to topple the financial system, screw all the big banks. And you're not going to topple it. You're going to more have to interact with it long before you'll ever think about even changing it, much less replacing it or whatnot, So the states are always 10, 15 years behind anything regulatory or understanding, cutting edge type of thing versus say South Korea or, even Japan's another, they tend to be a little more understanding of newer age technology. The fact that
the governments, maybe not the people, but the governments.
Well, have you been to America?
Yeah.
America. So I do think that it's going to start being the embracing. We've been dealing with digital currencies for the last 20, 30 years. You've got credit card points. You don't carry cash. You don't even carry a checkbook anymore. You've got a banking app. You've got a QR code. You've got a chip that's read. The digital world in finance is ripe for the technology advance. It's just like cash. The financial system, in order to try to keep a bearing on things, has gotta keep its regulatory grips on it, and will for another decade, right? As it starts to adapt. I do think that a digital currency for the US dollar is better than cash. I don't think you're gonna squash Bitcoin or non-country associated crypto, which I guess is CBD whatever's. I'll always call them CBDs. So
Speaking of which,
there you go, right? It can't do that in this state. So
really, you can't do CBDs there?
I guess you could do CBDs. I do think, and I think may have just done in the House. They may have done a state medical, but I'm in the South. We're a little bit. You want to talk about the states being behind in the regulations? Yeah, us here in the South, we tend to be a little bit further behind than that in everything. But
well, to go back to what you're saying, though, I think it's interesting because, like, this is going to be a big problem with mass adoption, in my opinion. And, like, if you can't figure out even how to tax people because the technology isn't there to be able to implement so that businesses and shops can use it easily, then it's not going to, usurp the regular system, right? Like, so, and I'm not saying that, taxes are good. But we do need to tax people. And if you're a person who is saying, no, I don't believe in taxes, then stop using the goddamn roads and get out of the way so that I can drive places faster. Like, seriously.
Yeah, we hit a trigger word.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and I'll say two different things. I mean, one, you're kind of touching on a couple of different things. One is the taxation and just the acceptance and regulation of it. And, I mean, it really boils down to KYC and AML is that you can't just move massive amounts of cash without somebody being able to verify where it came from. That's the world we live in. I'm sorry, right? I mean, and it's going to take a long time before you overcome that. The bigger problem for mainstream adoption, in my opinion, is the volatility, which comes from parts of the unregulatory aspect of it. But you can't have a cup of coffee that today costs $4, tomorrow costs $6. You may get $3.50 out of it.
We kind of want the volatility, though, right? I mean, it's just a matter of creating stable coins, and there's like a plethora of them.
Well, I mean, of course, you should ask Tether and the SEC how all that's going. But
yeah, but there's 10 now, right? I mean, there's like the USDT, there's USDC, there's all these different variations on it. I know, Tether's in a constant battle. It's kind of amazing they've lasted
so
this
what
long.
You're saying is, yes, you agree the volatility is crushing, so you just offload it.
But it's for some
there's
people,
no difference.
It's absolutely feature for me.
There's not, then you don't own a business that has cost of goods or anything like that. I mean, the problem is that if you take Bitcoin and have to go into a stable coin or go into cash, I mean, you're still having to change it to lock your equity in there in fear that in 10 minutes it's going to go down 10%. That's very tough in the crypto world to base your pricing and
yeah, I don't know if I agree with that. Like, and they haven't taken off for a reason, so I could be wrong. But a lot of these crypto credit cards, when you pay for something in the shop, they automatically transact your value from whatever currency you pay it into a stable coin, which doesn't move, right? So like if you look at what like crypto.com is doing, you can choose which, I think I'm right here, but you can choose which currency you want to pay in, and they automatically transact it into USD or USD.
Right. What's any difference between automatically selling it and putting it into your bank account?
Right, which you could do. I'm not saying there isn't a need for that. There's totally a need for that. But I don't know that it's going to slow down adoption when there's almost as much supply as there is demand solving that problem.
I mean, I think
your currency can't be used because it's too volatile and you have to have another mechanism, then that doesn't negate. You may be able to solve the volatility by giving you a peg, but does that make sense? I mean, you can't use it as a currency. You can use it as a store of value, of instantaneous value, but you can't even base any. It's got programmatic inflation, but all that's thrown out the window because the volatility is so much. So, I mean, you can't use it as a great base currency because it's just as dynamic and volatile as the US dollar. And hey, guess what? At least the US dollar Fed says, we think this is why we're changing it. Look, and the market just goes, oh, FUD? Bam, to the floor. I mean, both of them.
For our NFT line, Max Life, if you're listening, Michael needs to be a pro wrestler.
Slamming volatility to the mat.
Right. There you go. Right.
I don't know. Like I think for me, the more the more pertinent problem is volatility of transaction fees. Realistically, I think that's a bigger problem, because like if you want to buy a cup of coffee, but Ethereum's through the roof, and you want to have to pay for those transaction fees, then that's where the problem lies. But anyway, I think
the problem by saying on EOSIO, any DApp can cover and pay for the resources on the chain. They can run their own chain and provide their own resources. So you can obscure, if you're committed to the cause and want to do it right, you can absolutely obscure all the resource issues and transaction fees and all of that. You pay for it. You run the hardware. Don't make somebody else do that. I mean, the problem is whatever currency you're going into has to be stabilized. That makes it very difficult. Like me as a block producer, I get paid in wax. I work with a lot of wax projects and developers. I can pay my bills in wax. You should see how upside down and the losses I have to take. I've had a few gains, where holy shit, I paid it at 30 cents and it went up to 45 cents and I got paid at 45 cents, right? But okay, now my client just took a 25% kick to the balls, right? I mean, it's very tough to use it as an actual currency. It's more an instantaneous transfer of value, which is cool. But
this is why everyone should use EOS, because EOS is the ultimate stablecoin. It just doesn't.
With a what's the market cap? A billion or whatever. I mean, it's slipped down, but it's much more stabilized. But no, Bitcoin takes a dump, boom, EOS takes a dump. I mean,
it can't go much lower, I'm telling you.
You can. You should see some of my other coins. I promise you, it can go lower.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I've taken a beating,
but that's separate, and I mean, it's okay. You can more deal with that versus the taxation. And that's kind of how we got down this conversation. And I do believe, the world's starting to, or the United States. So a lot of the world's already caught up, but like the Ripple case, funny, it's Ripple that happens to be hey, thank you. But this couple in Tennessee, I don't know, you know what I'm talking about? The couple in Tennessee with the Ripple rewards or whatever.
No.
The court came back. They filed 2019 taxes or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they earned staking rewards or whatever it was, right? They basically bought Ripple, staked it, and got some type of ROI off of it, right? And the way the IRS looks at it is that you ultimately gained value back as tokens that are in your possession, so to say. Therefore, it's taxable assets. And they paid it and then sued the IRS and said, you're taxing me on unrealized gains,
right.
Like basically,
because they haven't sold it yet. I did see that.
If I triggered a taxable event, that's fine. But there has to be a line between the ones and zeros grinding and maybe even creating assets and value, and when you extract it. Because, I mean, when you extract it, it may be zero, it may be 10 times more or whatever, which in my mind, and I'm not a lawyer or anything along that line, just a feeble computer nerd that likes to break shit. But that helps kind of establish, number one, okay, there is a line, right? And like when we get into NFTs and even P2E and Anders and I talk about this all the time in some of our channels with a lot of other people, and everybody has their own opinions. None of us are probably right, but when you extract value, when do you cross that line between, great, I got this game that's spewing out all these tokens that are in La La Land, but I mean, I may never sell them. I haven't sold them. When I do sell them, that's a taxable event. But
and that's the way that's the way that it is in Japan. So I'm not in America, and I don't know. So does it go the other way? Like if you're at a loss but you haven't sold, do you get to claim that in the States?
I mean, in theory, yes, because it's when you get the asset, you had to claim it. What they're saying is no, neither way. Is that and
didn't they win? They won that though, didn't they?
They did, and so the court came back and said, you're right, you didn't realize those gains or losses, so to say.
Right.
And that's why I say is in the long run, what it means to me is the precedent that finally acknowledged and wrapped their head around all these magical internet money printers and assets that you're getting. There is a threshold between realizing the gains and the assets, and it still existing out there in the quagmire. Like I always complained about, why would you tax game tokens? Why would you tax my Upliftium when you don't tax my credit card points? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's so what you're, but you do when I redeem my credit card points for $100 Amazon gift card. Technically, that's considered the taxable event. I've gained value and should pay taxes on it. But they don't care because that's, the lobbyists have slid it off on the side. But it's good to see the law. Yes, Japan may have had this for 5 years, but we're starting to catch up. Is that it took somebody paying it, suing them, and going for I don't know, 2 or 3 years and winning. And it was Ripple. That's what it's like.
It's funny.
Ripple is like, setting so many of these law precedences, ironically, between the SEC and just, IRS and all of it. So, but that's the beginning. And it's those types of things that are going to push the regulation forward. It's the marshals, we're big on Proton Chain and talk to Marshall all the time, that are up there schooling the boomers on, look, this is the way of the world. We're not everybody is screw the system. Let's work together.
Right.
Let's replace Swift. Just because it's 1970s, it's older than all of us on here.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting to me to look at what other countries in the world are doing, because a lot of times Japan, like you said earlier, they are the forerunners and things. But at the same time, I get to see where they're going wrong, and sometimes it points to really bad directions for the rest of the world. But this is normally usually in regular business. I mean, Japan's been good. Like they're, like you said, as far as I know, they don't tax any realized or unrealized gains. You can't write unrealized gains off, which for the government is really smart, because in crypto there's a lot of unrealized losses. Let's just put it that way, right? Like, new things coming out all the time. But the bad point in Japan is Japan actually doesn't have a tax bracket for crypto, so it falls in the miscellaneous category, which means that 55% is taxable if you do pull it out, right? So it's really,
and see, ours, I mean, it just falls into typical income, typically.
Yeah, it's not
which falls into whatever tax bracket you're in.
So Nick, we got to get you on here as well when you're free. Come back on Enlighten Us sometime soon.
That's one of the smart mofos around the space.
Yeah, I mean, he might know shit. So yeah, I'm kind of torn to like where we head in this space, because I'm kind of with you. I don't think it's going to be a fast move, but I feel like we need more stability and more legitimacy with projects that are actually building shit that matters, instead of just shilling rocks on diving boards, right?
And it's what I don't know if y'all know, but I did.
Corey and I might actually spend the next 3 months just shilling rocks on diving boards, just so y'all know. But like we're looking at people to like fill other worlds, so that's what we're thinking, right?
So you talk about that, I just did an article, it was, I guess, December of last year with Bloomberg, and they were talking about DeFi versus GameFi ultimately. And my statement is that, there's only so much DeFi that you can do. I mean, you can lend money, borrow money, earn interest, exchange value type of things. And oh, by the way, it's probably one of the most heavily regulated and scrutinized industries in the absolute world.
Yeah.
Versus the game industry, that you go to Google Play or the Play Store or the Apple Store, every week there's the new games of the week. There's there's a bunch of clones, but there's an Angry Birds, there's a Candy Crush, there's a Wordle, there's a that is a much more ripe space for development and advancement and utilization of the technology. So yes, your financial industries are constantly going to, fight and battle and rightfully so. I mean, I don't think people need to be able to move billions of dollars around the world unadulterated because that's going to lead to you're never going to collect taxes. You're never going to, I mean, there's all sorts of, why do we need to police ourselves? But that's an okay path that we'll go down. I think the GameFi industry is much more ripe for, no, here's what you can do with blockchain. No, own your assets. Yes, I understand Bitcoin may have its whatever, but what if you had night vision goggles for Call of Duty that you could sell very easily? Or what if those power-ups you earned in Candy Crush, because you're so fucking awesome at it, that you can go and sell them to the people that were buying them at 99 cents because they just needed 5 more moves, right?
And again, Corey's gonna get pissy about this because he always does. But I'm gonna throw it out there, right? And like I'm not making fun, but I'm gonna freaking say it. If you had stockpiled bread NFTs, how much better off would you have been after this war? Right? Like
that's, you're basically just talking about like straight commodity futures,
right? But it could be
coupons though.
No, but it's the same shit, right? Like,
yeah, no, you're right. No, it could
be on
right. I don't think you want to call it the same
bread.
Shit. The SEC would like to call it the same shit, and that's why they're going to come down on you like a load of bricks. But
no, fair enough, right? Like there's
that's what a commodity share is.
There's a higher value point to all of this than.
But I guess this sort of comes back to your point, Michael, about like that you don't want necessarily people just throwing billions of dollars around really easily necessarily, for whatever reason. But then it's like, if I just buy a coffee from Starbucks as an NFT, who gives a fuck? That's not like a financial transaction. But if I buy 1 million of them, right?
Oh, it's a financial transaction.
No, I get it, right? But like it's scale, right? Like, so if I'm just pre-buying one for the hell of it, right? But I could use the same mechanism if we were doing NFTs to buy 1 million of them. Right. If I'm buying 1 million of them, there's no way to look at that as anything other than a futures contract. Right. Like,
it's an asset.
That's what it is.
An asset that entitles, and a matter of fact, it's security, to be honest with you. But in my opinion,
yeah. This is why like all security law has to kind of go through the ringer now, because like it didn't make a whole lot of sense before, and it definitely doesn't make any sense now.
And of course, I'll call them my elitist best friends are always, look, why do I need you to protect me? I understand that concept, but and you want to see what an unprotected world looks like? Go look at the Bitcoin market. So
that's a good point. Yeah, fair enough. Right, it would be a bunch of.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, we just need you in the comments to correct all the.
Do you really?
Well, actually, Nick, I said
coffee because it's a hell of a lot harder on the chain to do that.
That's true, man.
So.
But I mean, at least you get a coffee. I mean, there's lots of coffee NFTs out there that will never give you a coffee. You're just paying millions of dollars for a picture of a coffee cup, right?
If you're lucky.
No, it's good. Like, so yeah. So other than EOSIO, Michael, what are you bullish on? You got some ape? Are you did you ape into the ape? Do you got those crazy coins?
I personally didn't, because we go right around on this. I'm so immersed into our space over here in the EOSIO world. I do a little bit dabbling across, but my other minions, a lot of our proof of work fleet crew, that are out there screws on miners and whatnot. Obviously they're big into blockchain. They do a lot of the feeling out of, ETH, Polygon, Flow, even all these Heliums and Strong Blocks and a lot of the other chains that are out there, because I can't stay as focused as I used to on it. But there's my big thing's cross chain. That's going to be when it doesn't matter. Fine, you want to take it from your own private chain to Wax, or your own private chain to ETH, OpenSea, something like that. That's what I'm bullish on. That you're going to start seeing these multi-chain projects break down the barriers between these different chains. You know what I mean? So you can play a game and do your transactions, and then you can also export it and go sell it on OpenSea and bring it back. And the UX they don't know any different, right? They don't have to have all these keys. They don't have to have all these wallets and everything. So, just like the internet, you used to have dial-up modems and Netscape and proxy servers and, you know, the internet in the 1990s. I think all of us on this call, and pretty sure, I don't know, Andrew's maybe younger than us, but
Yeah, he was like 6.
he's like 12
Fucking
with
guy.
a haircut.
He's the only person in blockchain that's never had a beard.
Anders, can you grow a beard? You know, some people can't.
I'm sure you can.
I don't know.
Someday.
I got some buddies of mine that when they try to grow it, they get like the well, I'll save what we call them, but no, some people can't grow beards. That's what I've come to terms with. Doesn't matter how old they get. Anyway, not to harp on anybody, but
it's
anymore.
Yeah, right.
Anymore, right? Oh, I mess with Anders all the time.
That actually doesn't surprise me, Nick.
Anyway, I don't even remember where I was going.
No. But like, so one thing that blockchain really is missing, like you equated it to the early days of the internet, right? But I think for me, what I would equate it more to is that it's the plus mark on the back of your debit card, right? Like, and that it still happens, and it frustrates the hell out of me. Here in Japan, I will go to Costco and they won't let me use a credit card because I don't have a flippin' MasterCard. It's like, yeah, we only accept MasterCard. And it's like, is this like a blockchain store? Like, you only accept EOS? You only accept EOSIO? You don't accept like anything beyond Ethereum? Like that's how archaic I feel when I go to Costco in this country, because you can only use a MasterCard, which is bizarre to me, because if you're in the US or if you're in Canada, you can go anywhere you want. I mean, you might have to pay a little bit of a higher fee, but even in Japan, you can use your debit card or your credit card at any store that you want. And so, like, I think this kind of goes back to what Nick was saying, and I don't want to answer for you, but sorry, missed that. I don't want to answer for you, but I think you were probably referring to beyond EOSIO as well, in terms of like compatibility with network stability, right?
Correct. I mean, as a global standard, it's a long way away. And I don't know if we'll ever get to an actual global standard of what a wax NFT going to Ethereum 721 or whatever the latest standard is. I think they got a new one over there. But if it's yours, you can do whatever the hell you want to, right? I mean, if you have your own bridges, if you have your own interface and UI that handles all that for you, I mean, all you want to do is say, sell it on OpenSea, and poof, it happens, right? I mean, you don't, I'm more excited that you know, I mean, in 1990s, everybody was developing the internet and computers and browsers and all this, you know, I mean, there was a lot of heart. And then in about 2000, so to say, the turn of the millennium, cable modems and high-speed internets and, you know, I mean, Google and all of this really finally started kind of, you know, 10, 15 years into it, revolutionizing the use cases of the technology. So, I mean, we're still a long way away, and these are the paths of getting there. But you talk about is, okay, after 50, 60 years of financial dominance around the world, right? I mean, since World War II, we'll say, right? So 60, 70 years. That's really when, in my opinion, globalization, economy, these big banks, right? I mean, you know, they run everything. Yet still, in a first world country, I think y'all are the second largest economy, third largest economy in the world. You in still Japan. Have issues. Yeah, in Japan.
Yeah, I think we're third. We used to be second after America, but I think China usurped us.
Correct. So anyway, I mean, a very, you know, advanced country in the, you know, economical aspect still has barriers and payment rail exclusivity and issues and whatnot, right? So, I mean, we still got a ways to go from the global scale. You know, the United States is pretty standardized. We were able to do our regulations, be able to, you know, lobby and get the rules they wanted. And yeah, I can use almost all my credit cards at almost all my stores here. It's going to take a long time to get that.
Oh, we can too. It's just fucking Costco.
Well, an American company. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I don't know what it
anyway, I'm excited to see where to go, but that's why I also say is I think that the games and the projects and the things that aren't financial based are gonna be the, you know, like the streaming video revolutionized the internet, right? You now can get your own content from anywhere, relatively uncensored. You know, I mean, it was the the next level use case. And now I don't even have a cable package here at my house. It's an internet stream from wherever I go, right? I mean, it utilized it, but it took 20 years to get there, right? I mean, but it's these.
Well, and to Corey's point on landlines, like how many people still have a landline? I don't know about over there, but like over here, almost no one has a landline anymore.
Yeah,
my parents,
they exist, but they're weird.
Right.
Like
we went to my timeshare a couple years ago, and a buddy of mine had his kids there, and they're, I don't know, 6, 7 years old, and we went to go order room service or from the restaurant. So they went, and of course we unplug all the phones because, you know, in a timeshare they just call you every day at like 7 a.m. to try to sell you something. So we go over there, we plug it up, and they go, the phone's broken. It's making some weird noise. The kids had never heard a dial tone in their life.
I thought you were gonna say we were messing with them. We plugged up an old modem to their phones.
No, yeah, they have no clue what modem breath sounds like. But like I say, I mean, they had no clue what a dial tone even sounded like. But anyway, that's why I say I'm excited to be in this space. I compare it to the internet of 1990s all the time, and we're still fighting over the regulation of the internet. Can the internet providers content filter? Can they give you a sponsored fast lane? Or even now, I mean, we see across the world, they're shutting off Russia. They're just like unplugging them, you know what I mean? So we're still catching up with how this is going to work.
Speaking of which, I think that should be clear by now that we're kind of supporting Ukraine on this channel. So if you guys are offering NFTs or anything out of the gates that's going to go to support a legitimate organization over there, hit us up and we're happy to have you on the show, or throw it on where we had allthealpha.com.
Yep.
And I also, from that aspect, I mean, I have coworkers and friends all around the world. So
right.
I try, especially being American, you know, I mean, we're loud and obnoxious and political anyway, but I always try to, you know, I mean, it's horrible that it's happening, and it doesn't matter who or where, right? I mean, that's the aspect, but, you know, everybody has their own opinions and beliefs and whatnot. So I try not to poke at either side of it. I tend to support one side or the other. But
I don't poke at either side of it either. Like, and actually, I had to eat my words not so recently because I didn't mind Putin before, but stop fucking going into other people's countries and saying it's yours. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, it's like, I'm pretty sure it's like kindergarten level fucking.
I'm pretty sure they told our country that a couple of times as well.
Right, yeah, but what
I tell America that all the time.
I told the United States to get the fuck out of Afghanistan and Iraq too. Right? Like it's not new. Right. You know, it's not like we're celebrating when this country does it.
Yeah.
And like what they're doing is totally fucked up and they should stop. And that's it.
Yeah, exactly. When we have like, yeah. And I mean, yeah, we won't make it a political show, but I just think that like we should definitely be beyond this shit. Like as a society, as a race, like,
it's hard to believe that in 2022, things are transpiring the way that they are. That's the best way I've heard it. I mean, from folks there racking their shotgun, or, you know, just unbelievable that in 2022, you know, in the world that we live in, that here's where we are. So anyway,
I mean, I'm so like, I kind of understand, Corey, now why we rebranded this show to Monday Morning and Chill instead of BP and Chill, because like BP and Chill, really, I'm not really sure it's that chill. Normally, I just cut it off there.
Wow, that's
Do
old.
that to you, Michael.
Jesus
God,
Christ.
that's a lot of sea lanterns.
So many sea lanterns.
We haven't played that in forever. Thanks for joining us, Michael. If you have anything, last words to shout out, please do, and please come back. Many
Just ask me for my
more.
password.
Yeah, we're gonna need your password and a bunch of other stuff.
I almost said something, but I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough.
Where can people find you and what you're doing next? And yeah.
Well, I'm trying to get all of our web presence and everything all up to date, but EOSUSA.io, trying, it's kind of our main block producer site, and got a couple other ones that are spinning up, but kind of be able to find your way to all of our different divisions. Got a lot of projects we're working on, a lot of services, collection scoring, liquidity pool drops, blending portals, games. I mean, it's building season in EOSIO world again. So, really excited about what the next 6 to 12 months, 2022 is going to bring for a lot of projects. Stuff we're working on.
And I do this I do this show over on the General EOS channel where we interview projects for Pomelo Pitch Deck. And Michael, I'd love to have you just like as a guest host sometime. Like pick an SDK, something that's like technical. Come join me for the 20-minute spin-off. I think it would be super fun. But yeah, Corey, do you have anything before we depart from this wonderful BP and chill flashback?
Nope. Just I think we need to find a hole and put that video in it, and then cover the hole.
We'll see you guys all tomorrow. I think we're gonna be here with the Jedi of the Uplift, Mr. Kawe Mota.
That's cool.
To just chit chat about what's going on with our world. I think on Friday we'll have Darren from NFT Graffiti Kings who designed the cover for this for this show. We got more fun in the sun for all of you people heading into the summer. But before that, we got some really fucking cool shit too.
Oh, choppy chop.